Tonight we continue our special series, Louisville in Crisis, taking an in-depth look at the violent crime that's plaguing our city. And more than ever before, it's kids who are the victims and perpetrators of violent crime. As part of this series, Travis Ragsdale investigates what happens when kids head to a courtroom but avoid punishment.
Chris was one of a kind.
17 years old.
If you knew him, then you would love him. I heard the front door close. And I just kind of thought in my head, well, there goes Chris.
It was the last time Chris would ever be home with his mom.
It was like at 11:45, I hear this banging at my door. She says, "Can I come in?" And I'm like, "No, who are you?" And she was like, "I'm the deputy coroner." And when she said that, like, I already knew. One of those bullets hit Chris.
Chris Ward is just one face in the sea of teenagers who have died by the trigger in Louisville. He's also one of many who have walked through these doors into juvenile court. But what happens here, the public never sees. 2014 saw an overhaul of the juvenile justice system in Kentucky like never before. Senate Bill 200.
And the whole point of Senate Bill 200 was to front load services to these children at the low end of the justice system, so the least serious offenses, and try to divert as many of those kids from the court system at all.
State Senator Whitney Westerfield was the author of the bill, supported and praised by both Republicans and Democrats. It allowed youth charged with nonviolent, non-sexual crimes to avoid court and jail entirely.
Are you guilty or not guilty, sir?
Going through diversion programs instead.
It's a Frederick Douglass quote, and I say it and I talk about it a lot. It really is the guiding principle behind Senate Bill 200. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
That principle reshaped how Judge Jessica Moore deals with kids who land in her courtroom.
Does diversion work for kids?
I think it does. We don't want youth reoffending. We want them to have access to services.
But in some cases, kids who commit low-level crimes and avoid court and jail went on to commit worse crimes. It's a cycle trauma therapist Shawita Smith witnessed over and over.
Before the Senate bill got passed, we could revoke their probation if they're breaking curfew, substance use and all that. They only had so many chances. But after the Senate bill, they're like, okay, you go to this treatment, you go here. If that doesn't work, you go over here.
Before Senate Bill 200, a juvenile could be arrested for up to 2 misdemeanors before going to jail. Now, a juvenile could commit 3 misdemeanors and a felony before ever seeing a jail cell. So what does the data say? On average, there have been 104 more diversions a month since Senate Bill 200 passed. In Louisville, it's a 16.1% increase since 2014. 10 months after diversion, 7% of kids will commit another crime. Without diversion, it's 16%. But the amount of times a kid is rearrested for a violent crime after diversion has gone up, and at least one of the 6 teenagers arrested for murder in Louisville this year was on diversion at the time.
Where is the line?
Well, the answer to that is that it depends. Each kid is different. Each kid's learning experience is different.
The Louisville Youth Detention Center closed on January 1st, 2020 because of a city budget crunch. The jail was defunded, and the state said it was too expensive to keep open. Now, kids are shipped all over Kentucky. It creates a whole different set of challenges when deciding whether a kid should go to jail.
I was the mental health treatment coordinator at JCYC before they shut down. So once they shut down, they start sending the kids to the camps. I had several kids, as soon as they come out of camp, 2-3 months later, they're dead.
I obviously take into consideration, does that youth have family support? Are there stable family members that could take them? Do I have a degree of comfort thinking that they would not reoffend, that they can follow the court's orders?
Those difficult decisions affect the criminals and the victims.
Time doesn't help. It still feels like yesterday.
Chris was one of those victims. When he was shot, he was on probation and wore an ankle monitor.
As a mother, like, having these things into place was, in my mind, shaping him back up.
His mom wanted more punishment for Chris, fearing her son could land in even more trouble. And it was even worse than she imagined.
I called them a month and a half before Chris was murdered, begging and pleading for help. And there was nothing nobody can do.
Do you think that he would still be alive if those consequences were enforced?
Yes.
It led to the most heartbreaking night of her life.
Whenever I called his probation officer that night, the probation officer says, I don't even see where he's outside of the house.
No one's ever going to get it right 100% of the time. At the end of the day, our objective is to make our Commonwealth safer.
And we don't always get it right. I mean, but the goal is to do what's best for the youth and best for the community, but we can only do the best we can.
That was Travis Ragsdale reporting. Our Louisville in Crisis series will continue with a 1-hour special airing Tuesday night at 10:30.